I've made the decision to begin a new chapter. Without you." The words lingered in the air of the elegant restaurant where we had gathered to celebrate my daughter's college graduation. Gregory, my husband of nearly 3 decades, still held his champagne glass aloft, his declaration replacing the toast he was meant to give in honor of Amelia's success. The soft clatter of utensils abruptly stopped. Conversations trailed off mid-thought. 50 pairs of eyes flicked between Gregory and me, awaiting my response. The tears, the confrontation, the dramatic departure they all seemed to expect. Instead, I offered a calm smile. "Thank you for finally being honest. My name is Bianca Caldwell. I'm 54 years old. Until this moment, I had played the part of the devoted wife and nurturing mother flawlessly. I had put my own ambitions on pause, standing behind Gregory through 3 failed startups, 2 career shifts, and an endless cycle of self-discovery. I raised our exceptional daughter, Amelia, who now sat beside me, her graduation cap still on her head, her face frozen in disbelief. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Cassandra Wells, Gregory's much younger lover, uneasily shifting at a back table among people I had called friends for years. Friends who had known about the affair and kept it from me. The same Cassandra who once joined our holiday celebrations, who once called me for career advice. With measured grace, I reached into my handbag and drew out a sealed cream-colored envelope, setting it beside Gregory's plate. "What's this?" he asked, his smug demeanor beginning to crack. "Something for you to read later," I replied evenly. Turning to Amelia, whose complexion had gone pale, I kissed her gently on the cheek. "I'm incredibly proud of you, sweetheart. Today is still about your success." Then I stood, smoothed the fabric of my dress, and addressed the silent room. "Please, enjoy your meal. I hope you all have a lovely afternoon." With that, I walked away, head held high, aware of every pair of eyes watching me. The restaurant's heavy door closed behind me, muffling the murmurs that had just begun to rise. Outside, the thick Augusta summer heat wrapped around me like a curtain, but I welcomed it. For the first time in years, I could finally breathe. Behind me, I heard the door burst open and slam shut again, followed by Gregory's voice, now panicked and shrill, stripped of confidence. "Bianca, what the hell is this? What did you do?" I kept walking, a faint smile playing at my lips. The envelope I had given him marked the start of a carefully planned retaliation, one I had spent months preparing. In our marriage, I had always been the practical one. While Gregory chased grand dreams and gambled on ventures, I held things together. I was the one who saved for Amelia's college fund when he foolishly invested in a doomed restaurant. I took extra shifts as a finance manager at Trevanta Corp. when he quit his job during a midlife crisis to sell handcrafted furniture, a pursuit that barely lasted 6 months. My dream of launching a financial consultancy for women was always pushed aside. After Amelia graduates, I told myself, after Gregory finds his footing. Then, 3 months ago, I spotted irregularities in our finances. Small transfers to an unfamiliar account. After managing our money for 2 decades, the signs were unmistakable. I could have confronted him right away, but something told me to wait. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was the emotional distance that had grown between us over the past year. Instead of confronting Gregory right away, I began a quiet investigation. What I uncovered was more disturbing than I had anticipated. For over a year, Gregory had been siphoning money into a separate account. He had also been wining and dining Cassandra at high-end restaurants, buying her jewelry and browsing beachfront real estate, while telling me we needed to cut back and prepare for retirement. Then I found the text messages, thanks to Gregory's carelessness in leaving his phone unlocked. Messages filled with promises about their future together. Messages where he spoke of finally breaking free. Messages outlining their post-graduation plans, the day he intended to make his dramatic exit from our marriage. What Gregory seemed to forget, or maybe never fully understood, was that I'd spent 3 decades in finance. I knew how to follow money trails. I knew how to uncover hidden assets, and most critically, I remembered the prenuptial agreement we signed 28 years ago, back when I brought more wealth into the marriage than he did. The same agreement he had pushed for to protect his future income included a fidelity clause, one that would now work entirely in my favor. While Gregory was secretly planning his new life with Cassandra, I was building a legal case. I met with lawyers. I tracked every suspicious transaction. I collected undeniable evidence of the affair. I had the divorce papers drafted and ready, and I had timed everything precisely, knowing Gregory would delay his announcement until after Amelia's graduation to avoid drawing attention away from her. But what he didn't realize was that I had already filed the papers that morning, before he could make his big declaration. Since the documents were still sealed and not yet visible in public court records, Gregory remained unaware that I was several steps ahead of him all along. I didn't return to the restaurant. Instead, I drove home, to the large colonial house in Augusta's historic district that we had bought 15 years ago. The very home that, according to his texts, Gregory had already promised to Cassandra. I pulled into the driveway and walked into the house that had been our shared space for so many years. Everything looked untouched. The same framed family portraits lined the hallway. The antique grandfather clock that belonged to my father still stood tall. The well-worn leather couch where Gregory and I had once mapped out our future remained in place. But despite the familiar surroundings, everything had changed. Upstairs, I entered the master bedroom and opened the closet. Sure enough, Gregory's clothes were already packed neatly into suitcases hidden toward the back, preparation for his intended departure the next day. I couldn't help but smile. Typical Gregory, fastidious about his wardrobe, but reckless with the things that truly mattered. My phone buzzed nonstop, messages from friends at the restaurant, from Amelia, and even from Gregory's sister, Diana, who had flown in for the ceremony. I only responded to my daughter. "I'm okay. This isn't yours to worry about. Enjoy your day. We'll talk tonight. I love you." I had shielded Amelia from all of this for months. I refused to let her final semester be clouded by the unraveling of our family. She'd be upset that I hadn't told her sooner, but I knew that in time she would understand. Amelia had inherited my sense of logic and her father's charm, a combination that had served her well and helped her graduate with honors. 3 hours later, I heard Gregory's car pull into the driveway. The front door burst open with a bang. "Bianca!" he yelled, his voice echoing throughout the house. "Where are you?" I was sitting calmly in the living room, reviewing documents on my laptop. As he stormed in, face red with fury, the envelope clenched tightly in his hand, I quietly closed the lid. "What the hell is this?" he barked, waving the papers. "You served me divorce papers today of all days." "I thought the timing suited your plans perfectly," I replied with cool composure. "You wanted to begin a new chapter. I'm just helping move things along." "You had no right." "I had every right," I cut in, my voice firm. "Just as you had the right to choose Cassandra. We all make decisions, Gregory." He smirked suddenly. "The prenup expired years ago. Any decent lawyer would confirm that." I allowed myself a faint smile. "Actually, it didn't. Section 12 explicitly states that the fidelity clause remains active for the entirety of the marriage. Perhaps your lawyer should have explained that to you. Oh wait, you didn't consult one, did you?" The smugness drained from his face as the truth landed hard. The very prenup he once insisted on, to protect what he thought would be his future fortune, now meant he stood to lose it all. The house, the Savannah vacation property, and his share of our retirement savings. His grand announcement at the restaurant had just become the most costly performance of his life. "You can't do this to me," Gregory muttered, collapsing onto the couch. "We built this life together," I said, my tone calm but resolute. "And you chose to walk away from it, just not in the way you imagined." His phone vibrated repeatedly in his pocket. He glanced at the screen but didn't answer. It was Cassandra, no doubt, wondering why he hadn't followed through with their carefully laid plan. You've always been calculated, Bianca, but this is ice cold, he said, changing tactics. What about everything we've been through? Don't 28 years count for something? I looked at him closely, the man I had loved for nearly 3 decades, the same man who had held my hand through 2 miscarriages before we were blessed with Amelia, the man who once surprised me with a spontaneous weekend getaway to Charleston for our 10th anniversary. When had he changed? Or had this version of him always existed, hidden beneath the charm, unnoticed by a wife who loved him too deeply to see the signs? Our history meant everything to me, I replied honestly, which is exactly why your betrayal cut so deeply. For a moment, his expression softened, perhaps thinking he had found a sliver of hope. Then maybe we can fix this, he said. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Gregory, I said, staring directly at him. This was a deliberate plan, carefully executed over more than a year. You moved money without telling me. You toured homes with her. You planned to announce our separation in public just to blindside and embarrass me. He scoffed, trying to regain ground. You're blowing things out of proportion. Am I? I asked, picking up my phone. I opened the voice recorder and tapped play. Gregory's voice. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public place is safer. She won't cause a scene in front of everyone. Cassandra's voice. And she doesn't know about the money? Gregory again. Not a clue. Bianca trusts me completely. That's her weakness. His face went ghostly pale as the recording ended. You recorded our conversations? That's illegal, Gregory snapped. Not in Georgia, I replied evenly, as long as one party consents, and especially not when it's in your own home. I didn't record your private moments with Cassandra. I'm not cruel. I only recorded the conversations where you discussed defrauding me. Gregory suddenly sprang to his feet, visibly agitated. I need to make some phone calls. Of course, I said calmly. Starting with your lawyer might be wise. I'll be staying at Diana's tonight. Diana's? He sputtered. My sister's house? I nodded. Yes. She's actually quite upset with you. She saw you with Cassandra last Christmas, remember? She didn't tell me right away. She confronted you first. You assured her it was nothing and promised to end it. When she realized that was a lie, she came to me. That landed hard. Gregory had never expected his own sister to side with me. He knew we were close, but clearly underestimated the strength of our bond. Everyone's turning against me, he muttered. Ironic, isn't it? I said, picking up my purse and the overnight bag I had packed earlier. You have until tomorrow evening to collect your belongings from the house. After that, the locks will be changed. As I approached the door, Gregory called after me, a note of desperation creeping into his voice. What about Amelia? Have you even considered how this will affect her? I stopped in my tracks, my composure finally cracking. Don't you dare use our daughter to shield yourself, Gregory. You weren't thinking about her when you were planning your new beachfront fantasy with Cassandra. His phone buzzed again. This time, he looked at the screen and let out a groan. Problem? I asked. Cassandra's already at the apartment. She's moved her stuff in. I couldn't help but smile. The apartment with both your names on the lease? The one you signed just last month? Gregory nodded, clearly baffled. You may want to check in with the leasing office, I said. That application was flagged for credit issues and never finalized. The leasing agent called our home phone for verification. I took the call myself. With that, I stepped out the door, leaving Gregory to face the first unraveling thread of his meticulously constructed fantasy. His perfectly timed plan was falling apart faster than he could react. Diana lived in a cozy bungalow across town, close to the university where she taught literature. When I arrived, she greeted me at the door with a tight, emotional hug. I just got off the phone with Amelia, she said, ushering me inside. Are you okay? Better than I thought I'd be, I admitted as we made our way to the kitchen, where a half-empty bottle of wine sat waiting. I can't believe Gregory did that. At the restaurant, in front of everyone, Diana said as she poured 2 glasses. He's completely lost it. He meant to humiliate me, I explained, accepting the wine. He wanted to make it public so I couldn't react without looking unhinged. Diana's expression darkened. My brother has always loved drama, but this is another level. We settled into her sunroom, surrounded by books and potted plants. Diana had never married, choosing instead to pursue independence and academia. At times, I had envied her freedom. "What did you put in that envelope that rattled him so badly?" she asked. I told her about the divorce papers, the documentation of his financial deceit, and most importantly, the prenup that would ensure he walked away with far less than he'd anticipated. "The prenup?" Diana raised an eyebrow, amused. I remember how insistent he was about that. Dad had just given him startup capital for his first business, and he was terrified of losing it. She let out a bitter laugh. The irony is exquisite. Just then my phone rang. It was Amelia. I inhaled deeply before answering. "Hi, sweetheart." "Mom," she said urgently, her voice tight with emotion. "I'm coming to Aunt Diana's." "You don't have to, honey." "I'm already on my way," she interrupted. "Dad's telling everyone you've gone crazy, that you've been planning this for months. He's saying horrible things." Of course he was. Gregory had always been a master at spinning the narrative to make himself look like the victim. "Let him talk," I said gently. "The truth will come out soon enough." 20 minutes later, Amelia arrived, still in her graduation dress, her makeup streaked with tears. She collapsed into my arms like she used to when she was a little girl waking from a nightmare. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Amelia asked, her voice muffled as she leaned against my shoulder. "I didn't want to overshadow your final semester," I explained gently. "You worked so hard to get to this day." She pulled away slightly, wiping her tear-streaked cheeks. "Well, Dad managed to ruin it anyway." We moved into Diana's living room, where I finally shared everything with Amelia, how I'd discovered the affair, the financial manipulation, and the plans Gregory and Cassandra had made behind our backs. "I knew something wasn't right with Dad," Amelia admitted. "He's been distant, always distracted, constantly on his phone. But I never imagined it was this. No one wants to believe that about someone they love," Diana said softly. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Philip Anderson, my attorney. The emergency order had been approved. The accounts I identified were now frozen, pending the divorce proceedings. Gregory's access to funds was restricted, just enough for basic living expenses, but not enough to fund the real estate ventures he and Cassandra had mapped out. I showed the message to Diana and Amelia. "Good," Amelia said firmly. "He deserves that." Her loyalty touched me, though I remained clear-eyed. "He's still your father," I reminded her. "What's happening between us doesn't have to define your relationship with him." Amelia shook her head. "Maybe someday. But right now, I can't even look at him. He hugged me this morning, told me how proud he was, while planning to destroy everything we've built." Our conversation was interrupted by the doorbell. Diana went to answer it, returning a moment later with a grim look on her face. "It's Gregory," she said, "and he didn't come alone." I braced myself as she led Gregory and Cassandra into the room. Cassandra looked visibly uncomfortable, fidgeting and scanning the room anxiously. She was 37, not exactly a stereotypical trophy wife, but still 17 years younger than me, with shoulder-length blonde hair and a kind of confidence born of never having endured real adversity. Gregory, on the other hand, looked furious. The desperation I'd seen earlier had hardened into defiance. "Bianca, this has gone far enough," he said. "Unfreeze the accounts. Let's sit down and talk like adults." Amelia rose, stepping just in front of me. "Maybe you should have acted like an adult before making your grand announcement," she said coldly. Gregory looked taken aback, as if noticing her for the first time. "Amelia, this isn't your concern." "Not my concern?" she repeated, disbelief in her voice. "You blew up our family at my graduation celebration, and you think it's not my concern?" Cassandra touched Gregory's arm. Greg, maybe we should go. He shook her hand off. Number not until Bianca starts acting reasonably. Diana crossed her arms. It seems to me the only reasonable person here is my sister-in-law. You're the one who started this mess, Gregory. I remained seated, letting the storm unfold around me. For years, I had been the one to keep the peace, to smooth things over. That job had drained me. I was done playing that role. The accounts will remain frozen until the preliminary hearing, I said calmly. That's in 3 days. The judge will decide on a fair division of assets then. 3 days? Gregory sputtered. And what am I supposed to do in the meantime? You have your personal account, I reminded him. The one you've been quietly moving money into over the past year. That should tide you over. Cassandra turned sharply to him. You've had a separate account? With how much in it? The tension between them was immediate. Clearly, Gregory hadn't been honest with her either. He ignored her question and turned back to me. This is vindictive, Bianca. This isn't who you are. Maybe you never really knew me, I said evenly. Just like I clearly never really knew you. Amelia now turned to Cassandra. Did you know he was going to make that announcement at my graduation celebration? Cassandra looked ashamed. I thought he was going to talk to your mom privately. The public announcement surprised me too. Gregory shot her a look filled with disappointment and resentment. Their united front was already fracturing. I think it's time for both of you to leave, Diana said, her voice firm. Amelia's been through enough today. Gregory turned to our daughter. Amelia, don't you understand? Relationships change. People grow apart. Amelia's face hardened. I'd never seen that look on her before. What I understand is that you're a coward, she said coldly. You couldn't even give Mom the courtesy of a private conversation. What I understand is that you were stealing from our family, while I worked 2 jobs just to afford my textbooks because you said we were broke. Gregory paled. That's not what happened. It's exactly what happened. Amelia cut him off. Please leave, Dad. I don't want to see you right now. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. Finally, Gregory turned and walked out, Cassandra trailing behind him. At the door, he paused and glanced back at me. This isn't over, Bianca. I'll fight this. I met his gaze, unwavering. You're welcome to try. Once they were gone, Amelia sank onto the couch beside me, tears rolling down her face. I've never spoken to Dad like that before. I put my arm around her shoulders. Sometimes standing up for what's right hurts. Diana returned with fresh glasses of wine and held hers up. To new beginnings, she said. Indeed, I thought. This ending was also the start of something new. The preliminary hearing took place in a small courtroom on a rainy Tuesday morning. I arrived with Philip, my attorney, while Gregory showed up with a lawyer he had hired in haste, an inexperienced associate from a firm that typically handled corporate cases, not family law. His poor choice of counsel was yet another sign of how ill-prepared he truly was. The judge, a sharp-eyed older woman with little tolerance for theatrics, examined the prenuptial agreement thoroughly. This document appears to be in order, she said, peering over her glasses at Gregory's attorney. Are you challenging its validity? The young lawyer cleared his throat nervously. Your Honor, we argue that the agreement has lapsed due to the time that has passed since it was signed. The judge raised an eyebrow. Section 18 clearly states the agreement remains in effect for the duration of the marriage and any legal proceedings related to its dissolution. She read aloud from the document. There is no expiration date mentioned. Gregory leaned forward, whispering urgently to his increasingly uneasy lawyer. Furthermore, the judge continued, flipping through the papers, there is compelling evidence of consistent fund transfers that violate the financial disclosure obligations outlined in Section 23. She paused and looked up. I am ordering that the freeze on the joint accounts remain in place until full financial discovery is completed. Mr. Caldwell's personal account will remain accessible for basic use. Additionally, the family residence will remain under Mrs. Caldwell's control throughout the proceedings, as stipulated by the infidelity clause in the prenuptial agreement. Gregory's face turned a deep shade of red. "This is outrageous," he muttered under his breath, loud enough for me to hear. The judge gave him a pointed look. "Mr. Caldwell, I suggest you take a closer look at the agreement you willingly signed. This court will reconvene in 30 days for the final hearing, after discovery is complete." As we exited the courtroom, Gregory caught up with me in the hallway. "Bianca, please. We need to talk this through rationally. We've spent 28 years together. That has to mean something." "It did," I replied. "It meant everything, until you decided it didn't." I walked away, leaving him standing alone in the corridor, the consequences of his actions beginning to catch up with him. Word spread quickly in our social circles. Friends called often, some to offer their support, others clearly fishing for gossip. I remained composed and kept things simple. "Gregory and I are separating. Sometimes these things happen." Meanwhile, Gregory's carefully crafted image began to unravel. The persona of the successful entrepreneur and devoted family man was now visibly fractured. The financial freeze had left him unable to fulfill the promises he had made to Cassandra. The beachfront property they had planned to buy fell through. The luxury car he had put a deposit on was never delivered. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diana called, her voice laced with irony. "Have you heard the news? Cassandra moved out." "Already?" I wasn't surprised, just impressed by the speed of her exit. Apparently, she just found out Gregory's business isn't nearly as profitable as he claimed, and those savings he bragged about? Non-existent. She told her friend Jennifer she didn't sign up to date a man with financial baggage. I laughed. He always was a master of illusion. While his world was unraveling, I was rebuilding mine. The financial independence I had safeguarded over the years, kept separate from our joint accounts, gave me the freedom Gregory never saw coming. I rented a small office downtown and launched the consulting firm I had dreamed of for years. My first clients were 2 women going through their own divorces. Word spread quickly. I focused on helping women navigate their finances during pivotal life changes: divorce, widowhood, career transitions. The work was deeply fulfilling, far more so than my corporate job had ever been. Amelia, now working at a marketing firm in Charleston, called regularly. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," she said after I told her about my growing client base. "You're helping people when they need it most." "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me," I told her. "Helping women prepare for whatever life throws at them. Being valued for my skills and knowledge, rather than just my emotional labor, was a powerful and transformative experience." The final divorce hearing took place on what would have been our 29th anniversary, a fitting end to nearly 3 decades of shared history. Gregory looked worn down, and I later learned his business was faltering without my support and financial oversight. Cassandra was long gone, now dating a real estate developer from Savannah. Most of our mutual friends had distanced themselves after learning the full truth about Gregory's deceit. The judge upheld every term of the prenuptial agreement. Gregory walked away with only his personal items, his struggling business, and the funds in his private account, most of which went to legal fees, leaving just enough for a modest apartment. I retained the family home, my retirement savings, and 70% of our shared investments, exactly what the agreement prescribed in cases of infidelity. There was something poetic about it. The very document Gregory had insisted on to protect himself had become his downfall. As we left the courtroom, he approached me one last time. "I made a terrible mistake," he said softly. "Is there any chance we could—" "No," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "That door is closed." "I understand," he replied. And for the first time in years, I believed he meant it. "I hope you find happiness, Bianca. You deserve it." It was perhaps the first honest thing he had said to me in a long time. 6 months later, Caldwell Financial Transitions was thriving. I had upgraded to a larger office and hired 2 associates. I remained focused on helping women secure their financial futures in times of major change. Amelia visited often, beaming with pride over what I had built. "You know what's ironic?" she said one afternoon. "If Dad had just been honest from the start, he might have walked away with half of everything." "Sometimes people can't see beyond their immediate desires," I replied. The woman who had once seen herself only as Gregory's wife and Amelia's mother had become something more: mentor, business owner, advocate. The envelope I had handed Gregory at that restaurant hadn't just been an exit strategy. It had been a key to a door I didn't know existed. Behind it, I hadn't found revenge. I had found reinvention. In securing my financial future, I had reclaimed something far more valuable: myself.